my spooky crew, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if this is your first time here. My name is Alex, and thanks for coming to my spooky corner of the internet. Shadow people, shadow entities, shadow humans, shadow person. So many things associated with the word shadow. Shadow people, I'm going to refer to them as shadow people, seem to be one of the most reported sightings in the paranormal community, paranormal field. I know for me, I've seen shadow people, well, a shadow person. I've seen a shadow person multiple times throughout my life. I don't know if it was the same entity, but I definitely saw shadows multiple times in my life. And actually, when I do residential casework, shadow people are often reported. Also, I get asked about shadow people almost on a daily basis, whether it's through my Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, personal email. I'm asked about shadow people a lot. And considering now that I'm dealing with, weird shadow person sightings around this place, I figured let's talk about it. I mean, imagine this. You're sleeping in your room, you wake up from a deep sleep, you open your eyes, you got your covers up to your face, and you open your eyes, and in the corner you see a outline of a person, but it's kind of blurred, it's kind of wispy, but it's definitely a shadow. Like that outline is darker than everything else in the room. You see glowing red eyes or yellow eyes. So you close your eyes, you pull your covers up over your face, and you hope that when you open your eyes again, that shadow will be gone and that it's just your mind playing tricks on you. And you open your eyes again, and that shadow is even closer to you. Close your eyes again, open them, and the shadow is inches from your face. Or you open your eyes and you see a shadow person at the foot of your bed, or it's in your doorway. Or you may even see a shadow wearing a hat with a three-piece suit and holding a pocket watch. These are some of the most common reports of shadow people. Since this seems to be such a popular phenomenon that has spanned decades, maybe even hundreds or even thousands of years, let's have a chat about it. But before we get started, be sure to click on that subscribe button, give this video a like, and be sure to click on that notification bell so you'll be the first to know when I upload a new video. And for more spooky stories, paranormal content, ghost hunting tips, then head on over to my website at thespookystuff.com. All right, let's get started. In full transparency, I'm going to admit that shadow people are a topic that I usually avoid for various reasons. Why? We don't know what they are. We don't know what shadow people are. We don't have a concrete theory. Just like with ghosts and other weird paranormal phenomenon, we just don't know what shadow people are. However, there are numerous reports of shadow people that have been collected by researchers, paranormal investigators, authors who have compiled them and basically have tried to correlate certain traits to different types of shadow people. This is a long-winded explanation to basically say that this is all ghost theory. If you've been a follower of the spooky stuff for a while, then you know that ghost theory is basically just theory. I can't prove any of this exists. It's all just ideas that have either come from myself or different people. And also, this is meant to be more of a general overview of shadow people. If you want to do a deeper dive into the world of shadow people, there are some books that I have listed in the description that you can check out. And just keep in mind, they are affiliate links, so I will get a commission if you decide to buy a book from one of these links at no extra cost to you. It's just basically they throw like 2 cents at me saying, hey, thanks for referring this book. And I do have student loans and a wedding to pay for, so I'll take a couple pennies if, certain companies are willing to throw them at me. Probably one of the most common stories you'll hear about shadow figures and shadow people is that people will see them out of the corner of their eye, and then when they look, the shadow comes out of view. I've had scenarios given to me by clients who will say, like, they're sitting in the laundry room and folding laundry, and they'll see this shadow just appear out of the corner of their eye, and then when they look, it's gone. That is pretty unsettling. Other descriptions of shadow people have included they're like 7, 8, even 10 feet tall. There are reports that they can be cloaked or hooded, wispy and smoky, they can expand, they can contract. And even accounts like throughout history have included oddly similar descriptions to the point where you kind of have to wonder, like, is it really a coincidence? Is there really something going on? Like, around the world, there are legends from Japan, Vietnam, and Brazil, all these other countries that have some sort of lore surrounding shadow figures or shadow people. And some of them predate, oceanic travel. Well, oceanic travel as in like colonization. I mean, people have been traveling by ocean for like millions of years, so, There are also different types of experiences with shadow people. I mentioned one earlier, people seeing them out of the corner of their eye, they look and, they're gone. Other people have seen them like looking straight on at them, and it only lasts for maybe a couple of seconds. But then there's another experience where people have looked at shadow people and the experience lasts for several minutes. I have experienced this one where I'm literally looking at this humanoid shadow person and I'm looking at them for several minutes. Well, it felt like several minutes, but I was able to talk to it and communicate with it, and it just was hanging out, or it would move around the room, but like I was looking dead on at it and it was there. Like my brain, like I was having a stroke or really hallucinating, but yeah, it was very alarming to see that. If you have read my book, One Bed Over, A Hospital Haunting, I do talk about my experience with this shadow person quite a bit. But I have experienced seeing a shadow person just looking right on at them, and it's like, oh, they're there. This is really unsettling, and I may need to use the bathroom now, but this is actually happening. And honestly, had I not seen it myself, I probably wouldn't believe a lot of the stories because it is extraordinary. It's an extraordinary experience. Let's talk about the different types of shadow figures. So we have like the human-shaped shadow figure. There's also been animal-shaped shadow figures. Like people have seen like shadows in the shape of cats, dogs, tigers, bears, oh my, people have seen different shaped animals of these shadow apparitions. Other people have seen them in forms of like mists and like wispiness, and as I mentioned earlier, the cloaked figures, the hooded figures. And of course, we can't forget one of the most notorious reportings of a shadow person is the Hat Man. The Hat Man is normally seen wearing a hat. The description of the hat tends to change a bit, but the common traits of the Hat Man is, he's wearing a hat, he's wearing a three-piece suit, which is interesting, and also has a pocket watch that he uses to check the time. He's also extraordinarily tall. People have found similarities between the Hat Man and Slender Man, although Slender Man is completely fake and fabricated, so it makes me wonder, I think maybe there was some inspiration from the Hat Man when Slender Man was created, so something to just keep in mind. But yeah, a lot of people have reported having an encounter with a shadow person, a very tall shadow person wearing a hat. And then of course we have the whole yellow or red eyes. People have tried to find patterns like, oh, if the shadow person has red eyes, it means that they're evil. If they have yellow eyes, they're evil or they're neutral. I mean, these are things that we try to do to try to explain things or at least make correlations, because this is what we do as humans. We want to find an explanation for things, or at least find a way to categorize this sort of phenomena, like, Hat Man good, Hat Man bad, or a shadow person with red eyes is bad or demonic. I'm also not on the bandwagon that shadow people are demons, by the way. I've never really believed that at all, because I'm kind of on the fence about whether demons are actually a thing anyway. So that is one other explanation of shadow people that we really can't forget to mention. It's fascinating. It's fascinating that people have reported seeing these shadow figures and they've all kind of taken their own shapes. And then you have the different types of experiences, like, you see them out of the corner of your eye, only see them for a few seconds, only see them for several minutes. I did forget one. Some people have also reported being touched by a shadow person or having a shadow person like go through them. All in all, that's all pretty unsettling. There have also been reports of shadow figure sightings that have been associated with sleep paralysis. And actually, that's when a lot of people will see shadow figures, is during like a sleep paralysis episode. And of course, logic would say that the shadow person is what is causing the sleep paralysis. But with sleep paralysis, basically what happens with that is your body doesn't wake up as quickly as your brain. So when you open your eyes, you could be seeing like what your brain is imagining, so to speak. So sleep paralysis has been studied in a scientific setting, and one could say that like the old hag syndrome and all those situations have been debunked. But what happens when you have a sleep paralysis episode and you actually haven't been asleep at all? again, that's happened to me. Let's talk about the different theories of shadow figures, shadow people. This is where we kind of really get into this could be very much cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs or ghost theory, so to speak. So there have been discussions that shadow people could be spirits, human spirits that can't manifest completely. So like they're trying to manifest and trying to appear to somebody, but all they can really do is appear as a shadow. I've also read theories that shadow people are ghosts with unfinished business. There are also theories that shadow people are interdimensional beings, meaning they're coming from another dimension and they're poking in and saying hello to us or just observing us in most cases. And then of course we have the theory that shadow figures are aliens, extraterrestrials, which I don't touch on the alien thing a lot on my channel. A lot of it's because it does weird me out a bit. I mean, I can't really look at any of these theories and say, oh, you know, this one isn't legit, because if I'm like, oh yeah, shadow people are ghosts with unfinished business that can't fully manifest, I mean, I can't really say that the interdimensional beings in the alien theory is, you know, not a smart theory, because, you know, hello, we're talking about paranormal stuff where really none of this stuff can be proven. Now, in order to fully understand shadow people, well, understand to the best of our abilities with something that we really don't know anything about, it is important to look into like the history of shadow people. So we could say that the modern perception of shadow people really goes back to when Art Bell did a segment on shadow people on Coast to Coast AM. On the show, he had interviewed a Native American elder by the name of Thunderstrikes, who's also known as Harley Swift Deer Reagan. And during the show, Art Bell encouraged listeners to send in their personal stories and drawings of shadow people that they've experienced, and the response was overwhelming. These drawings were shared online, and something that people noticed right away were that these drawings had striking similarities to each other. I mean, granted, there's only so many ways you can draw a shadow person, but people were sharing very similar stories. I've also read that there are stories that are even dating back to like 1998 on the internet. So Art Bell may not have been the first one to really modernize the popular belief in shadow people that we have today. It's a little debatable, I've noticed. But with anything that becomes like an internet phenomenon, it gets a bit tricky, because then essentially people are tainting each other when it comes to shadow people stories. But it also could be one of those things when, just like with black-eyed children, people share it on the internet and they're like, oh, I've experienced that too, let me share with you my story. Or you have people who are like, oh, I really want to jump on this bandwagon, I'm going to make up a story and share it. So it's really hard to vet a lot of these stories and see if they're legit or not. In 2001, Art Bell really helped make shadow people popular. That same year, in 2001, there was a writer-author named Heidi Hollis who published her first book about shadow people. And she really pushed this narrative that shadow people were like evil alien beings. She included a lot of stories about how these shadow people would jump out and choke people, and that if you say the name of Jesus, the shadow person would go away. And then of course the late Rosemary Ellen Guiley published a book about the jinn. Yes, from Middle Eastern folklore, jinn as in, you know, what we would know, not really correct, but know them as genies, but that the jinn can be shapeshifters and they can be shadow people, they can be animals, they can really be anything. I've actually read Rosemary's book, The Jinn Connection, and she actually makes a really interesting argument that a lot of the weird phenomena that people have reported, I mean, even like fae and all that good stuff, is actually jinn. So definitely a book to check out there. So there's a lot of theories out there about what shadow people are, but like I've said repeatedly in this video, we're never really going to know for sure. We can read the theories, we can read the stories and correlate them with our own experiences and see what shadow people mean to us. There's also a really compelling website. I think it's shadowpeople.org. That's run by a woman named Susan Fowler, and there you can actually see like reports that people have submitted to the website. It is written in Comic Sans. It is a little bit outdated. I think the latest is like 2017, but it's definitely something worth looking at if you are interested in hearing and reading more stories about shadow people and read more about like theories as to what they are. And also a man by the name of Mike Ricksecker also wrote a book about shadow people that is worth checking out. There is also a story that's been floating around the internet. It's a sleep study known as GR16. The research I've done on GR16, it just seems to be a plot device used for a movie, but there are people who claim that GR16 was a real occurrence. Basically, it was a sleep study that was conducted on volunteers who had reported seeing shadow people, but then all of the participants ended up becoming unalived, supposedly by the shadow people. Again, like I said, I'm pretty sure this is more of a plot device for a movie, but I also haven't dove in really deep into GR16, so it really could be a legit thing. I just haven't been able to really find anything substantial that tells me that GR16 was a real thing. And apparently the sleep study GR16 happened in 1971. I did find that bit of a tidbit, even though it's a mockumentary and not true, but anyway. I mean, with the way that the Camden College Sleep Study GR16 1971 video presents itself, it really does look like recreated footage for a movie. So I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence about that. But anyway, so there's been a lot of studies done on shadow people. So many people have reported their own experiences about shadow people, and honestly, at the end of the day, we're never going to know the answer, which is frustrating, but also exciting, especially when more cases and experiences do come out. But again, it's really hard to vet these stories to make sure that they are legit and genuine. I mean, even if you're able to debunk a shadow person encounter, it says something when the experiencer is able to tell their story and you can tell that it's genuine and authentic, as opposed to somebody who's just blatantly making up a story. So of course, with debunking shadow people, so experts, in sleep study, psychology, brain science and whatnot, they've actually studied the shadow person phenomena in various people and have found very common traits in people who have seen shadow figures. A lot of it has to do with, the amount of stress that the person is going through, their sleep levels, sleep cycles, also if they're using and abusing substances. That's a big thing. Throughout history, there have been people who use meth, and when meth is used, shadow people are a very common hallucination. And keep in mind, like in history, throughout different centuries, meth was used as treatment for various ailments. And then when you take that in consideration, and then you think about the shadow people sightings throughout those specific periods of time, it definitely makes a compelling case that maybe the substance had more to do with the shadow person experience than anything actually anomalous. I mean, I'm a skeptical believer. I have to explore both sides of this. But I've seen shadow people and I don't abuse illicit substances. So that's something to keep in mind there. And I'm pretty much of sound mind as far as I know. And I know people who have never abused substances who have seen shadow people, and they're very clear, very coherent individuals, well educated, went to Ivy League schools, and are even scientists themselves. So there are a lot of stories from people who are of sound mind and are logical, who have had these experiences, and we need to take those into consideration. So I guess for this video today, I have more questions than answers. Have you ever seen a shadow person? Have you ever had that experience? Or do you know someone who's had that experience? I really want to hear your story. Tell your story in the comments and let me know what you think. Do you think shadow people are legit, or do you think it's all just, psychological hallucinations and all that fun stuff? And before you go, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, give this video a like, and feel free to share this with your friends and family who also enjoy the spooky stuff and shadow people. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next round.